There's a lot of talk in the FGC now about Akuma maybe being the best character in the game. But one of the best players in the world, the man synonymous with Akuma, doesn't seem to believe in him. Let's quickly check why and talk about it. So for those of you that don't know, Tokido has always been synonymous with Akuma. His most famous clip is him doing the Raging Demon on stage. He's one of the best Akuma players in Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. Even when people didn't think Akuma was that great in Street Fighter 5, he's the one that kind of convinced everyone very quickly. But in Street Fighter 6, it's the opposite, where people seem to think Akuma might be the best character in the game. And even Tokido claimed that as soon as Akuma comes out, he's swapping. They patched the week before Akuma came out, he entered a tournament and said, "This was a nice tournament to send off my Ken." Like, he had this dead set vision on playing Akuma. But then as we see here, Battle Arena Melbourne happened May 31st to June 2nd, and he played Ken when he won. He played Akuma a bit earlier, but when he played in top 8, he was pretty much always playing Ken, and this was a strong tournament, right? He later did this YouTube video, which you can check out, where he pretty much said, you know, he was actually feeling not the most confident about his Ken. He wasn't satisfied with his Ken, he lacked confidence. It felt sluggish to him, but as the tournament went on, he actually swapped to playing all Ken, and he won the whole event. Now, a lot of people were wondering, you know, is it just because Akuma's brand new, so, you know, he went back to what worked? And, you know, that makes sense, but he says in a very recent video that this time he's sticking with Ken all the way. I believe Ken is the strongest character right now, even if there are unfavorable matchups. It's probably just 1 or 2 characters at most. I'm serious. I'm saying this with all sincerity. He seems very dead set on staying with Ken. And this doesn't inherently seem like a big deal, but like, this is the Akuma guy. Even when people don't think Akuma's good, Tokido wants to play Akuma. It's like he's known for it, and he always makes it work. So the fact that he's switching to Ken, it's kind of a tell that like he genuinely doesn't think Akuma is worth it, or he thinks, you know, maybe Ken, or at worst he would think maybe a Ken and Akuma are similar and he just already has way more hours on Ken, right? That's a possibility, but we have a little bit more info. So if we take a look at this Reddit post here, Tokido, Gachikun, and Mago talked about kind of Akuma's place in the meta and in this season in general. You could find the whole video here, but we have a transcript on Reddit. And I'm just going to read it, and then I'll talk about what I think, and I would love to know your guys' opinion on Akuma. To me, I'm just going to spoil this. I think Akuma is probably a top 2 character in the game. I don't see how he's not. Literally, the only thing I don't see that's good about him is his health, and I don't personally think a 10% health decrease is like as big as people say it. People say it all the time, like, oh, you can't play Chip, you explode in Guilty Gear. Chip's like the best character in 3 different patches. Oh, you can't play Karen and Cammy and Akuma in Street Fighter 5 because they're too volatile, they have low health, or Evil Ryu in Street Fighter 4, or Akuma in Street Fighter 4, and these characters are always good, right? If they're actually good, this 10% decrease in health, yes, it can matter, but it's never like the determining factor. Unless these characters got nerfed, then they became bad down the line, right? But it was never like, if they were good, their health wasn't kind of holding them back. That's just my take on it. Anyway, so Tokido here says, Akuma in Street Fighter 6 is about a 3.5 out of 5 points. Ken is stronger. Ken is currently a top tier character. Now, maybe this is just a translation thing, but this kind of makes me seem like he's implying that Akuma is not a top tier character if he's saying Ken is. And the fact that he gave him a 3.5 out of 5, right? It's a 7 out of 10. That's not very good. That's like, what is that, like a B? I don't know. I've been in school forever. That's like an okay character. To me, Akuma is not a 3.5 out of 5 or a 7 out of 10. I would think he's like a 9. The only thing I think he lacks is low health. And one thing I do think that Ken has over him, which I'll talk about later, is access to the corner, right? Ken touches you anywhere on screen and you're getting put in the corner because he's either side switching with you or he's taking you to like one side, right? He can literally choose. He hits you in the middle of the screen, you can probably choose which side he wants you on, right? Even his throw rolls across the whole stage and then throws you in the corner, right? And I think that's a huge deal in Street Fighter. It's one thing Akuma doesn't have much of. Like, I don't think his basic corner carry is very good. Maybe you can do a specific combo to maximize your corner carry at the cost of a lot of damage and a worse knockdown, but I don't think people are really doing that because he has such a good knockdown of his sweep. The corner carry on that's not very great, and he doesn't have a side swap combo, at least that I've seen yet. Maybe people are developed one recently. But the thing with Ken's side swap combo is like he doesn't really sacrifice much damage. He gets a good amount of hits before the side swap. He could DP you after. He could level 1, level 2 you after. I mean, he's probably not gonna level 1. Gachikun replies, he says, "That's right, Ken is definitely top 5. Mago says, Ken's counters, Chun-Li and Cammy, got weaker, so Ken is really good now. It's much easier to throw fireballs. And that's true, right? It's very hard for Cammy to go through Ken's fireballs. It's very hard for Cammy to go to anyone's fireballs now because she kind of has to do it preemptively. She can no longer react to you fireballing because they made Spin Knuckle have a much later invincibility to fireballs, right? Mago says, Chun-Li seems to have been nerfed more than expected. The scaling on light normal moves has a big impact. Something I agree with. In my video a few weeks ago when this patch first dropped and people were saying Chun-Li is still very good, I thought that her nerfs were more than what people were kind of giving credit for. Gachika in mid-screen footsie neutral game has also become a bit unstable. Mago says, right, but her standing heavy punch has been improved, so if you can make it work, it might be okay. Still, the scaling on light normals is a bit ... Gachika and Jamie received a lot of good buffs, but surprisingly, people are quiet about him. It's probably because of the scaling on light normal combos. Mago says, you have to hit the opponent 1.2 to 3 times more than before. It's tough because of the light normal move scaling. Gachika replies, exactly, even though he got a lot of buffs, the scaling on light normal moves, ... That's why Jury is a really good character. She starts everything with medium normals. Mena RD was right, Jury is definitely in the top 5, something I agree with, by the way. Tokido says, Akuma seems to need more time. Mago says, it's a bit tricky. His 9,000 health is too low, his fireball is good, so you keep throwing fireballs, but if you get hit by a jump once, you're screwed. The feeling when you die from a jump in is on a whole different experience for him. I mean, that's definitely true, right? Having less health, like, as I said earlier, I don't think it's a determining factor, but you know, you get something like jumped in on, that's a lot of damage. It's definitely a factor. Gachiken says Akuma's a low health, high damage character. He used to be really strong. He has good damage and could do a lot with 9,000 health, but now the only thing he can do is throw fireballs. It's interesting. It makes it seem like Gachiken thinks Akuma's a little limited. I think he can kind of do a lot of things, right? But I like their perspective here. Mago says his damage and corner game are both mediocre, just average. Gachiken replies, he might seem strong, but Ken is stronger. Ken has really good hitboxes on his field normals, he's the best. Mago says Ryu has also gotten quite good. However, it's still hard to beat characters like Dhalsim or Guile. Still, the buffs were great for people who have always played Ryu, but it's not so good that players of other characters should switch to Ryu. Ryu is just right as he is now. I kind of agree with that. Like, Ryu's a character that will just always be popular. So if he's like the best character in the game, there might be a problem, because who wants to queue up for ranked and fight the best character in the game over and over and over? It seems like room for a lot of tilt for people. I mean, maybe that's what we're doing now if Akuma's actually the best, right? Anyway, Mago says there's an important point to using Akuma well. As everyone knows, Akuma needs to increase the return value of his anti-air. Tokido said with air-to-airs? Mago says either air-to-air or upwards anti-air, like the standing heavy kick anti-air. If you increase the return value of your anti-air, the value of your fireballs goes up. But to land high value anti-airs, you always have to be in a risky position, so it's scary. Increasing the return value of anti-air is the key for Akuma. His anti-air damage is really strong. Tokido says if you hit anti-air as well, you can corner the opponent and your damage is good too. Mago says that's really good. Shuto and Kuwano are aware of this. And yeah, this is something I agree with 100%. Akuma in theory has so much damage off his anti-air, especially with his back heavy kick. He gets a launcher, he gets a full combo, he gets good corner carry. But as I said, to get in the position where you really want to do this, there's two problems. One, it's like right above his head, so you have to be at a jump distance, which kind of makes it obvious you're fishing for someone to jump in a way, and it makes it scary to throw your fireballs from that position, because if you throw a fireball at a position where someone gets a perfect jump on you, you're gonna die, right? So like it's a risky place to gamble with, but he has a very good return. The other problem is that because you're anti-airing with a normal that has quite a bit of startup, I think it's like 11 or 12, you're also susceptible to just losing to, you know, the classic Ken dive kick, right? As the heavy punch reaches so far low, or like a literal dive kick like Kami. You're banking on anti-airing with a normal that can be stuffed, or like it's just a risky spot to play with. But as they said, his return here is really good, so maybe down the line, if people just get really good at this situation, they're comfortable playing at this range where his anti-air back heavy kick like hits perfectly, and you know they're reacting fast enough that they always get it, and yeah, that's just like a really good part of Akuma's kit, right? So I'm curious what you guys think about what these three Japanese legends have to say. Do you agree? Is Akuma maybe overrated, just average in a lot of situations? As I said, I think he's one of the best. I would love to be proven wrong here. You know, they bring up a lot of good points. I do think he has things that are kind of underrated. He has the fastest walk speed in the game, right? I think he's a bit slower backwards walk speed than Chun, but that's already insane. He has an air fireball, which is hard to deal with for so many characters, and even characters that can deal with well. It's so hard depending on like where he throws it, at the height that he throws it. And it's so much better than it was in Street Fighter V, right? I feel like he almost always gets combos off it in this game if it hits you. It feels very easy to make it plus if someone just blocks it. You can throw it from so far away, drive rush behind it. Like, I think that's a big part of his kit. He has a lot of little tools like this that I think kind of bring him way above being average, but I'm curious what everyone in the comments thinks. Let me know what your thoughts are about Akuma. Let me know if you think Tokido, Mago, or Gachiken are capping a little bit. And if so, why, right? What do you disagree with? What do you agree with? So yeah, I think Ken is in a great spot, but yeah, that doesn't mean I think Akuma is average, or what did they say? Mediocre, just average. Well, they're just talking about his damage and corner game. I think his damage is quite high, but I don't know. Maybe they're used to Marissa. I play Kami, so a lot of damage looks high to me. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I would appreciate a like, comment, and subscription. But yeah, actually, I would love to talk about this. I'm still on the fence of it. If I'm going to play Akuma myself, I'm leaning more towards Kami. I do think Akuma is probably better than Kami, but I just find Kami so fun in this game. I'll see you guys next time for the next video. Stay beautiful, my friends.